So, welcome everybody at the Lisk Community Meetup. Every week we have a guest, or maybe two guests even. And this week we will talk with Endro and Michiel Mulders, former HQ, and they both applied with a project for the Lisk Builders program, and today they will tell you everything about it. So if you have any questions, drop them in the YouTube chat or in the Lisk general chat. So we will keep an eye on both, and let's see where we go today. So a few announcements also. We have, I think, a couple of things Lisk has done lately. 1 second. So Lisk has closed the 7th epic. I don't know if it's the official name, but it's like Lisk Regenesis. If you want to know anything about it, just drop your questions in the general chat, and there are some developers that can help you with the answer. In addition, we have a new community hero, Rafael. He's sitting in front of me. He doesn't want to be in the screen, but we will make him host one time in the future. So you can read everything about it on the Lisk page. Lisk has also released a blog post about supply chain management. So if you would like to know what blockchain can do for supply chains and how it fits in the broader picture, go and read it. It's a good read. It has lots of references to other articles. So I recommend reading it. Now we're going to the main part of this talk, to the Lisk Builders Program grant approved to Endro and Michiel. And if you would like to get a grant like that for a project they will present, just apply for the program online. And you can read already everything about the ARCADO network at the blog post from Liz. But let's hear about it. Endro, can you tell us why you are here and what you're going to tell us?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom. I'm from the delegate Endro Labs, and we'll be presenting our proof of concept, me together with Michiel Mulders, who will be presenting the demo. But I'll first share my screen in Meetup's channel. Go live. Normally my screen is visible.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So let's start. So ARCADO network, simply put, is a decentralized reward system for multiplayer games. We'll briefly go into the objectives of why we started it, go over the technologies, do a demo by Michiel, and share some what's next. But first, let's talk about the objectives. So in the beginning, we wondered which topic should we use, but me and Michiel love to game, and we can spend entire evenings doing some fun games. So we thought, why not go to the gaming industry and check what's possible. And when we're looking at some possible opportunities, we quickly saw that the gaming industry is actually growing at a rapid pace. Statistics show that it's almost 10% every year, and there's no end. Everything keeps on growing. And as you see, in 2018, we got 2.3 billion, 2019 even more, and revenue, it's bonkers on how much cash that flows through the industry. But let's take on a use case to put it in words. If we see Call of Duty Warzone, it's a new game released in the Corona times. And upon the release, it had already had 6 million players. It's quite a lot. But as we see, by 10th of May, it had 60 million. So it's enormous. The rapid onboarding of users, it's crazy. But why does Call of Duty grow so fast, actually? Well, we found out three things, and that's because we got a network effect. The IT infrastructure is capable of handling such tremendous amounts of active sessions. And of course, there are three gaming studios behind the entire infrastructure to support the online experience of a player. And it's quite nice to have if you build games. But we were also wondering, so Call of Duty is a nice multiplayer game, but how difficult would it actually be to build such a multiplayer game on your own? And we did some research. We found some few comments that will briefly show that it's a huge headache. You have to connect computers with different CPUs, GPUs, network speeds, get them in a lossless connection together, and it's a tremendous role for small game developers to actually build such a multiplayer environment in their indie game. And it's tons of effort, and a lot of new developers do not actually build multiplayer because it's such a big hurdle. Now, our idea actually came to it that what if we can provide a network for those developers to easily use and just start on implementing multiplayer functionality right in the indie game developers world. And that's where ARCADO came. So our application is actually a solution that attaches the decentralized reward system to multiplayer games in a generic API for game developers. Now, what does that actually mean? It means for gamers that there is a new mechanism to incentivize games with you and your friends. And for developers, it's actually quite a strong toolset to provide multiplayer mechanisms where they can monetize an app in literally a few steps. So it's quite a cool feature. The technologies that we used is a simple front end. It's TypeScript, React, Redux. We use a middle Node.js service with Express.js that connects with the sidechain. We built the Express API temporarily to store the games. We do not have create a game mechanism, so we built a quick small array of games where people can immediately out of the box start up and check out the game functionality and to hold the game room queues because it's quite intensive, but not in a proof of concept, of course. And then let's go to the demo, I guess.
So let me take over the stream. Can you see my screen?
There's another window, so you have to click on another screen.
Screen 1. Right, go live. Okay, can you now see the code?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm running now the front end, the Lisk blockchain is running, the backend is also running. And so for this demo, I will create 3 accounts. The first account will be used for creating the game room, and the other 2 accounts will be used for joining the game room. So I'm just going to use my email address here quickly. This will create a new account. You get a public key address and the passphrase. At this point, you don't really need to save the accounts, but I'm just going to write down the address. So start exploring. So now I have an account. and we can browse the different games. For example, I want to play Counter-Strike, and I want to start a new game room. So let's name our room. Yes. No. Easier. The entry fee defines how much users have to pay to join the room and participate in the reward sharing. I'm going to set it to 2 Lisk. 3 players is the maximum. And then we can define the price distribution for when the game is finished. So the first player will get 50% of the total share of this game room, the second 30, and the last one 20. It's like a standard distribution. None. Let's create a room. So now we have a new room, and by default, our user will join the room. And you can also see here the distribution now according to the percentages we have set. It's important to know that by default, we are funding every new account that gets created with 5,000 Lisk, just to be sure and to remove some of the hurdles. So now we have only 1 player in the room. So I'm gonna open 2 more incognito screens and create the other 2 users. Choose this one. So for this user, I'm gonna go to the non-room and I want to join the game. So click participate and let's do it a 3rd time. So we have, So we have 3 participants in the room. So let's register, choose it again, 3, copy. Okay, I also want to play CSGO. There's 1 space left. Let's join. So now there are 3 players in the room. So the first player will see that the room is full and he can start the game. So let's start the game. On the visual end, not much changes besides you can end the game here, but we can check out how the games are stored. So by default, we are now storing all the active games in the asset field of the Genesis account. So let's do a refresh here and look for the non-room. So the game has been created, the entry fee has been set, and all the participants and the distribution are saved on the chain. So we can later access this data, and there is no dispute about the distribution. The next step is to end the game. So when we end the game, the application asks to identify who has won, who is in 2nd place, who is in 3rd place. So let's see, I want to give the money to 888 account. And just before we do this, I'm gonna quickly grab the account address and check the balance for this account. So at the moment, he has paid the 2 Lisk as entry fee. And when we close the game, he should get 3 Lisk. So he should get 1 positive, so he would end up at 10,001. So let's end the game. The game has finished now. And now if we refresh, I'm waiting for the blockchain to confirm. There we go. So the user has now 10,001, so he actually gained 1 Lisk netto. That was actually the flow. I'm now gonna dive quickly in some of the details of the code. See here. So when we were creating the room, as you saw, we're using the Genesis account for storing the assets. It's like kind of a cheap solution at the moment. And we push the game with all of the details into the games array, which is stored in the asset object. And by default, we will also subtract the balance, the entry fee from the balance of the player. So we convert the player balance to big num, we subtract the fee, and then we store the updated balance for the user. When we are starting a room, we have implemented a small check, which is quite similar to Ethereum's like smart contract owner verification, where we check if the property created by, which holds the address of the room creator, matches the address of the user that wants to start the game. So if the user is someone else, it will throw an error and the game won't start. So this is some kind of safety check we implemented. And then lastly, for the stop room, I want to show you how we calculate the distribution and the winnings. So the winnings are calculated based on the distribution. So we use the total sum of all the entry fees, which is, for example, 3 times the entry fee balance, so it's 6, divided by 100, and then multiply it by the distribution percentages. And we add for each account the balance to, like the winnings to its balance. The last transaction that I didn't show is the join room. The join room is actually quite a simple transaction. It is the same logic where we update the balance. We have a small check to check if the user has enough balance to join the game. Then we subtract the fee from his balance and we store the user again. So that's the basic flow. And that was actually also the end of my demo. So if there are any questions, let us know.
Yeah, let's do it at the end, maybe.
Do you want to continue?
I'll take
Okay.
over. Share screen. Okay, so thank you for the demo. We also want to have a brief overview of what we'll tackle on next. So most important part, as we are seeing it, is to build an SDK. Now, an SDK is specially built for Unity developers to give them an out-of-the-box functionality for gaming profile, room queues, and just the locking mechanism of funds in the token they desire. And yeah, it's especially built for having everything automated. For now, the entire front end was a click-through view. But as a developer, you can also just run the SDK in, for example, a mobile application, just talk with the endpoints of our chain and have everything automated is our probably #1 priority. Games is also an important what's next because our games are now stored in a centralized API. So before we ever go live with a network, it's very important to have a create game transaction where we do not rely on a centralized queue of games, but rather just have a dynamic game creation of random games that you would like to see, and have like a vibrant network of new games, big games, indie games, or whatever. And then, as mentioned before, the focus is definitely indie developers because those guys are the ones that need the help for multiplayer games, and we will assist them in every way possible. So we will also grow our functionality towards the needs of indie developers that want to work with us. That's it for us. My name is Tom Plum. You can find me at, that's the wrong Twitter handle. And Michiel Mulders, that's the right Twitter handle. But you can find me under Endro. Lisk had a few tweets where I'm with the correct tweet. And thank you. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the general channel, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's also someone that posts in speakers.
Thanks for the presentation and demo, guys.
No problem. Thank you for hosting.
So if I do not see any questions incoming, I will ask some myself. So currently, if I understand correctly, can you already connect it to a game, or is it separated from a game?
So understanding that you mean like it's connecting to a real game? No. So it's now just like the click through demo that you saw.
And in the future, how could you connect it? That I think that's my question. Do you ask software developers to connect your API or the chat you are making?
Yeah, so the idea is that indie developers would connect through the API and access like the functionality, like creating a game room, creating like filling up the game room in a decentralized way, and also having the transaction for the reward distribution. Now it was like manually in a centralized way. You have to click and send the transaction. But this should have a mechanism that takes care of it, like in a decentralized way. And the goal is that indie developers can just build their game and send a single API request or a couple of API requests to integrate this functionality and access the power of crypto.
Maybe additionally also, you can also see the application, use this click-through view. For example, card games, if you're playing with your friends at home, they do not have the ability to implement the SDK in their offline card game. So I can imagine that the UI is still there for card games or other offline stuff where people would like to use the reward with their friends.
Cool, thanks. I see some questions in Lisk General. First question from Lisk Poland. Do you want to make gamecredits.org ID live with your project?
I'm looking at game credits at the moment, but yes, it's very similar.
I think game credits is like engine where you have assets and you can share them across games, if I'm not mistaken.
NFT, yeah, non-fungible tokens. That's also a path we thought about, but it's not the main focus, right?
No.
So are you? You said that you want to develop this into an SDK. Is that are you really taking this serious and trying to put focus on this this application you are building?
Can I answer? Yeah. So the idea is to maybe also integrate multiple projects so we can offer like a wide range of blockchain networks to indie developers. So they don't have to care about the details of a blockchain and to give them more choice of blockchain platform. So, and the idea is a bit to work on a grant basis to fund the work. That's like kind of the vision.
Cool. So let's make a shout out to fund the next stage then later on.
Yeah. Lisk Poland also asked for rooms like poker, and I mentioned it briefly, but there's definitely potential to keep the UI and just or have a small mobile application where everybody can lock their tokens before a game and then have maybe a multi-sig where everybody at the end of the game verifies who won and in sort of way get their funds distributed in their friends group.
I also see one from Carbonara. How do you handle team wins? Or did
So for this prototype, we didn't implement it, but this falls under making the API SDK more dynamic. So it would be very similar where all users users can register as a team and all users of a team can share the winnings.
No, it's definitely possible.
And I'm not sure if it's possible to fetch results from major games, but that would be a major benefit. So yeah.
Thanks. Are there any more questions?
Carbonara is typing. And under stress that we know that he's typing.
Okay, that was a confirmation. So
Yeah, that's the issue that we're seeing right now at our application, is that cheating is easily done by the room creator. And we thought about some kind of mechanisms that would prevent the room owner to just enter his address in first place. And that would be that that there's no creator and that the room is just
well,
another transaction, for example.
an Oracle service would make a lot of sense here, and then we could fetch results from major games, but then you rely on only one source of information. So, but an Oracle could be a solution for this to get reliable API data about the game ending. Tricky.
We wait for a second. I see more people typing. I think it's also important for everybody to remember that these are still proof of concepts and will definitely have to be worked out more in the future. It's really inspiring that you take an approach that we at least here have not seen before. So it's really cool. Also that you can connect it to offline games in the future, or so there are multiple purposes. Do you think that it would be possible to apply this mechanism on a different industry?
Sports betting, maybe?
So Lisk Casino, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Keeps coming back.
We need one.
No, but maybe the room mechanism where there are queues and people can leave and can be used in other industries. But not that I'm now thinking of some industry.
Thanks. Another question. We are looking for people who would like to explain transactions during these kind of meetups, or maybe even build together with other members from the community. Are you willing to explain the transaction, for example, another time, or maybe even build something together during one of these meetups?
Yeah. the code is for sure open source, so we can do like a group session.
Yes, something like that.
That would be, yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely join.
Perfect. And do you have something else to say? Because I think we are almost ready, and we can close off. What would you like to ask or give to the rest of the listeners?
Yeah, on our side, the application is a proof of concept that was just talked about in a Discord voice channel. So if anybody has ideas or inputs, I would love to hear it, and maybe we can reiterate and give another presentation in 2 months or the next month. But yeah, we're open for input, help. It's open source on GitHub, so anybody can view it and help it, and we would love to share some ideas with the community.
Cool, thanks. Then I think there's one last question from Liz Poland. He asked, are you thinking about making a ranking of room admins with respect points?
Those are all great ideas.
Yeah, because everybody has an address, and that's actually the gaming profile. So in large sense, the gaming profile can be used across all games with respect points. So that's definitely possible to expand the gaming profile.
Should we make a project channel for this?
Yeah, sure.
I think that would be useful, yeah.
Let's do that. Kick it in the air, and then we'll see what might come out of it.
Sure, thanks.
So then I think we will close off, and I want to thank you for the presentation and the demo, and also the ideas for the future. And hopefully we will be able to watch more about it later. Do you have a front end which we can refer people to an URL?
That's gonna be the GitHub repository.
Perfect. Let's share some more information in the general channel, and make sure for everybody to read the blog post on lisk.io. It's explaining the whole ARCADO network with a little bit more words. Thanks, Michiel, and thanks, Tom, and see you next week.
No problem.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.